And usually when I explain how it is to have CF, how it is to breathe with CF, I say, imagine having a belt tied around here and breathing through a straw. That is how it feels. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm making a video which I have thought about making for a while, but I haven't So I've wanted to film this for a while, but I haven't really known what to say, if anyone will watch it or whatever. But I feel that it is important to talk about, and even if this video isn't for everyone, and maybe not a lot of people will watch it, for those who do watch it, I hope you get something out of it. So as you see in the title, this video is about the chronic illness cystic fibrosis. I can't breathe right now. So I have the chronic illness cystic fibrosis, which is it's a chronic illness, and it is a gene mutation, which it's the like CFTR mutation or gene. Okay, so I'm 23, I was born with the illness. I was diagnosed, I think, within the first few months. Okay, so let's backtrack a bit. I was born a month early, and there were complications when I was born due to my cystic fibrosis. So I had to have an operation when I was first born. So I have a scar here on my stomach, which I will show you. Here. And then I was like in an incubator for a month or something like that, and I think they knew I had cystic fibrosis when I was born, and I was born in Ireland, and I spent a whole bunch of time in hospital due to my illness and complications and things like that. So yeah, I've always had this illness, but I mean, I've never really thought about what it is and that. So I'm just going to read some facts and things about cystic fibrosis, just to give those of you who don't know it a little like what it is, how it affects me, how much you are affected. Varies depending on what gene mutation you have. Just like some people with the illness are more sick than others. So I think I have a rather mild, moderate variant of illness. Like most of my problems have been related to digestive issues in my stomach, but it's just now in like the last few years where it has affected my lungs a lot more. So yeah, so you know, when a normal person is sick, you know, they'll cough, they'll have extra phlegm and that, but then usually they'll be able to cough it all up and then their lungs will be clear. Whereas someone who has cystic fibrosis, we need to do inhalers and take a whole bunch of like medicines to help us breathe and to like come down to like the bottom of our lungs, so that we can get up the phlegm and then get up the bacteria. And that's also why it's so important for us to stay clear of bacteria, and because when we get sick we can get really sick because the bacteria like stays in our lungs, and that can cause inflammation and other problems. So when I was younger I had antibiotic quite often due to the bacteria, and I usually had like intravenous or IV antibiotics, so then I'd be in hospital like 10 to 14 days. I haven't had that for years now, luckily. I usually just take oral antibiotics, which I hate. They affect me so much. They affect me physically and mentally, but they do help my lungs and my cystic fibrosis. So it's, yeah, it's important to take even if I don't like them. And so there are like different types of mutations with the CFTR protein. So as I said, some people are more sick than others because they have a kind of like worse mutation, and some others have like a milder mutation. And as I said, it's genetic, so people can carry this they can carry the like a gene DNA for CF, but so people can carry the CF gene, and then if the mother and the father both have the CF gene, then there's a 1 in 4 chance that the baby will have CF. I was the unlucky baby, I got CF, but I guess my sister is a carrier, or there's a very high risk that she is a carrier of this mutation. And according to this site, there are 20 kids born with CF in Sweden each year, so it's not that common. I think in Ireland and England it's a lot more common. I guess they're more prone to the gene or the mutation. You're gonna have to correct me in the comments if I say something wrong. I'm so sorry. I really should do my research, but most of all I just want to talk about my personal experience. But yeah, so CF doesn't just affect the lungs, making it hard to breathe. It also affects the stomach and digestive system, because it affects like other organs where, you know, it's important for the water and salt balance. It can affect the pancreas, so like the bile that comes out, it can get blocked, so you can end up with pancreatitis, which I have had. I've had acute pancreatitis and inflammation of the pancreas, and also because the pancreas can get affected, it also can affect insulin. The insulin isn't released, so then there's a risk to get cystic fibrosis related diabetes, which is it's not diabetes 1 and it's not diabetes 2, it's something in between. And I read on a site that like there's a high risk that people with CF over 20 have this diabetes. So yeah, that scares me a lot. And also it affects the digestive system, so it's very hard because the bile isn't really released. It also makes it harder to absorb fat soluble vitamins, so there's a high risk to be as you can see, we cough a lot, and it doesn't mean that we're sick. It's just that we have like phlegm in our lungs and that, so yeah. It affects our digestive systems, so yeah, a risk of being deficient in fat soluble vitamins. So most people with CF have to take enzymes with every meal, especially when it's like high in fat, so they can absorb the fat, because otherwise you get a lot of stomach cramps and a lot of pain because the fat isn't absorbed. And it can affect the liver, kidneys as well. Like pretty much all the organs it can affect to some extent. And yeah, it's basically not a fun illness at all. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. There's no cure for cystic fibrosis. Now there is more research, so there are coming now medicines which are supposedly very, very helpful, like, or can be, I think it's called, but then you have to have a specific mutation to get that medicine. And so far the kind of like really good medicine that is available, I don't have that mutation. So now I'm just gonna kind of jump into my own experience and yeah, talk about my life with cystic fibrosis. So I was born in Ireland and I had the operation and was in hospital a lot. And then when I was 6 months, my family moved to Sweden because they have better CF care and research and things like that. Yeah, back when I was born in the 1990s anyway. So I got a lot of help in the Swedish hospital, and I don't know if I was like, I think I was a relatively healthy child for having CF. I remember that I was in hospital quite a bit because you have to go for a checkup every month. You talk to a doctor and you test your lung function and that. So I guess as a child I felt that it was a lot of hospital appointments, but I don't think it was so much compared to other children with CF. So I can't talk so much about when I was a child because I don't remember a lot of it. But then when I was 4.5, we moved back to Ireland, and I guess growing up I had most of my problems with my stomach because I wasn't absorbing fat, so I was underweight. I had to have I had to eat a lot of calories to gain weight and maintain my weight, and yeah, I had a lot of digestive issues. I think I've been relatively healthy. I mean, I've always known that I've been sicker than others because I've had to go to hospital every month, and you know, you have to take inhalers every day, and it's recommended to do it 2 times a day, and in total each session takes about an hour because you breathe in an inhaler and then you do all these breathing exercises. And then on top of that you take a bunch of medicines, usually 3 times a day, depending on what medicines you take. And then sometimes you need antibiotics. Some people need it more than others. Like I've had a period where I've been like taking antibiotics 2 weeks and then stopped, and then because you know the antibiotic session was over, and then after 2 weeks I needed it again, and I was once recommended to take antibiotics for the whole of like November to February because I had because I wasn't doing so good with my lung function. So I did refuse that because I said that I don't like taking antibiotics, so I'm not going to do that. So medicines and inhalers daily, and then also exercise is a big part of CF care, because by moving and exercising, especially doing like cardio, you know, you have to breathe deep and you often get up a lot of the phlegm, so that's really important. But also it depends on how, like if you're in hospital a lot or you can barely breathe, it is very, very hard to exercise as well. So not everyone can do it, but then it's so important to be really strict with your inhalers. I can say personally that I am not that strict with them, which of course affects me negatively. When I have a lot of schoolwork or I'm working and studying, then I can neglect to do my inhalers, which then I feel it like within a week. I am struggling to breathe, just like taking the stairs or walking up hills. I can't breathe. So yeah, those are really important to do, but sometimes I rely on just like, if I take my medicines or I do my inhalers like 3 to 4 times a week and just exercise every day, it's good enough. I know that I could do better, and I would feel better with my CF if I really, you know, put down those 2 hours on my inhalers every day. But I don't do it. Okay, so I'm gonna backtrack a bit now. So when I was 12 to 13, I began to think more about my CF, and I'd had quite a bit of like CF related issues. So I'd been at home from school quite a bit, and I think it was then I began realising that I'm not normal. I'm not like everyone else. I'm missing school like 2-3 weeks at a time, and I began doing like a research, and I found that, you know, the life expectancy for someone with CF was like 30 to 40 years. Many people died before that, and it hit me hard. I remember I was like, I'm 12 years old now, have I lived half my life already? And it was like all my dreams and everything I had just like came crashing down, and I thought, you know, what is the point? So I struggled a lot with that, and it was kind of at that time that my like anxiety, depression, eating disorders began to develop, which I have talked about in another video, I think, so I'm not going to get into my eating disorder past or anything like that, but I do know that my CF had a role in it, because I couldn't control my CF, I couldn't control the fact that I was sick. I think controlling food was a way of controlling my life. Anyway, so like when I was like 13, 14, I developed eating disorder, depression, anxiety. And at the same time, because I wasn't eating, I stopped taking my medicine and my inhalers. My CF health got very bad. When I was 14, I think I had one of my worst lung functions. Like I think it was like between 40 to 60% or something of the kind of expected. So it was very, very low. And I think that was just because I didn't have any energy in my body. I couldn't breathe, and I wasn't taking my medicine or inhalers, and yeah, it was not good. Like I can feel now as well when I'm very tired or very stressed, it's like it takes too much energy to breathe, where it's like, it's so hard to explain, but when I'm tired, I'm like, it takes too much for me to breathe. It's just like, yeah. And usually when I explain how it is to have CF, how it is to breathe with CF, I say, imagine having a belt tied around here and breathing through a straw. That is how it feels. And it's like I find it very, very hard to breathe deep. It's like I stop breathing around here all the time. It's like, and like sometimes I like breathe very heavy and I don't realize it, but it's like I'm sitting in, I don't know if you can hear that, but also the constant coughing, which gets annoying because sometimes people think I'm sick and they're like, wow, you know, you've been coughing for like 5 months straight now, are you going to go to the doctor? And I'm just like, oh, you know, I'm not sick, just, you know, just coughing. so that's annoying. I'm not so open about my illness at all, so I don't even know if I'm going to publish this video or not, but I feel that I want to talk about it. I want to bring awareness to this illness, and because not a lot of people know it, and I want to share my experience, and it's a huge step for me to do, you know. I haven't told my friends that I have this illness, to suddenly go to like publishing a video saying, you know, oh, I have a chronic illness. But the thing is also that, you know, you don't see that someone has CF unless they are very sick. So personally, if I'm not coughing a lot, people wouldn't even know I have this illness. So that is why I want to bring awareness to it as well, because it may not be so common, but it is a serious illness. Anyway, my experience. I'm jumping back and forth all the time because I haven't written up what I want to talk about, but I just want to get it out of me. Luckily, I haven't had so many like symptoms or problems. I mean, it affects my lung function a lot, and last summer when it was really, really warm, I couldn't breathe. I struggled to breathe a lot. So my lung function went down to about 60% when it's usually at around 80%, sometimes 90% when I really focus on taking my medications and doing my inhalers. So that was tough last summer, and I struggled a lot mentally with my CF because I was really faced with the fact that I couldn't breathe, and because I couldn't breathe I couldn't exercise, and I just wanted to sleep. I didn't want to do anything, and it was tough. So I struggled a lot mentally, and I felt like I was 14 years old again and wanting to just like scream, I don't want this illness, I don't want this, I don't want to have to feel this way, I don't want to struggle to breathe, because breathing is one of the, like, everyone does it, and not being able to breathe is one of the like hardest things to struggle with, and it's an everyday struggle. You know, I know that people have asthma or other lung illnesses. You know, even when people struggle with pollen allergy, you know, and they go through a period where they can't breathe, it's tough. Or even think about when you have a cold and you're all blocked up and, you know, hard to breathe. Think that that is like my everyday. And mentally it can get really, really tough. Which is why, you know, also I'm making this video, because I have been struggling a lot mentally with the fact that I have this illness, and I've had times I have just wanted to, like, you know, cry because I don't want it. You know, I think anyone who has a chronic illness can relate to the fact when you're just like, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to have to deal with this every day. I feel like I'm gonna start crying right now, because I really have been struggling recently. Physically wise, you know, it's not so, I'm not at my worst, you know. I've had times where I can't breathe and it's been tougher, so, you know, I'm doing okay physically with my symptoms, but it's the mental part where it's like it can be a struggle when you think that, you know, you might not live as long as others, and every day is a battle, and it hinders me to some extent, my illness. I'm just gonna have to stop this here. I can feel very tired because of my illness. I get stomach problems, which are a lot better since I went vegan. I haven't had as many digestive problems since I went vegan, which is amazing. I think it's also because it's not as high fat foods. Like, I can't eat a lot of foods which are very oily and things. So if I ever go to a buffet or eat something with a lot of oil, I'm basically gonna spend the rest of the day in bed because of the stomach cramps. So I do eat healthy fats on that, but I wouldn't say my diet is super high in fats because my stomach can't really tolerate that. But also things that, you know, I'm recommended to not go to crowded places. You know, even avoiding public transport is recommended because of all the bacteria and viruses around. So I am aware of that. I try to avoid crowded places. Not just because I have anxiety when it's crowded and that, but also because of the bacteria one of the worst things is to get an infection and then to, you know, have to take antibiotics and know that it's not just going to take 2 weeks, it's going to take like 2 months to actually recover from this. So yeah. Anyway, so I'm 23, I have this illness, and I go to the doctor every month where I do a lung function test, you know, talk to my doctor, have there been any symptoms and that. The research and the help for CF is constantly improving. They're trying to find a cure, trying to find better medicines. But for now it's just that, you know, it's your own personal treatment. You have to do your inhalers, you have to take your medicines, and, you know, exercise and things like that. And it helps. That's the treatment that is available now, and I wish I was better at actually doing it. But yeah, I guess I'm lucky I live in this time and not back in the like 1900s when people died very early because of this illness. Anyway, I just hope that this, you know, brought awareness to the illness, and if you know someone who has the illness, or maybe you yourself struggle with it, maybe you can see this video and relate to it or feel like you aren't alone, because I have felt very, very alone in this illness. And you're not recommended to meet anyone else with illness in person, which I can actually mention that back when I was in hospital in Ireland, I remember that I was given a room at the very end of the corridor, and I was told that, you know, I can't go to the other end of the hospital corridor because there is another patient with CF there, and you're not allowed to meet because, you know, you can spread these different bacteria which you have. So I had to keep to the bathroom on this side of the corridor, and they had to be in the bathroom on the other side of the corridor. And it was just so weird to be like, you're not allowed to go to that end of the corridor because you could get even sicker. Which I think there's a movie coming out now about CF. I can't remember what it's called. But I think it's about like 2 patients in hospital who have CF, and they're told that they can't meet and that, so I can kind of relate to that, but not the whole like, I think they fall in love or whatever it is or become great friends. That's never happened to me. Anyway, I hope this video was informational or helpful or whatever. I thought it was time I talk about this, open up, maybe share light on the illness, help others, or just, you know, show that I struggle with the illness. And yeah, I'm gonna end this video here because it's so long. And also I want to show you that my first tattoo was for cystic fibrosis. So it says "Just Breathe," which is the slogan for cystic fibrosis, and that was my first tattoo when I was 16 for cystic fibrosis, and also anxiety and depression and just life. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment down below whether you have any questions, or yeah, and subscribe to me if you like my content. Mostly I talk about, you know, veganism, health, what I eat in a day, recipes, things like that, so not so much cystic fibrosis related, but I can't breathe. But I will do more videos about this topic if you are interested, or just like questions and answers about the illness. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a lovely day and an amazing week.